myself and driving, and I narrowly missed somebody backing up. And I could, it was like a split second that, it would have been a bad accident. And and I felt at the time that there was some kind of divine intervention that saved me from a horrible wreck.
It wasn't divine intervention.
It was, but somehow
I'll tell you what
I
it
was
was.
saved
I'll
in that
tell you
moment.
exactly what it was.
Okay.
We'll come to it.
It's like I
thing
came
is-
back for a minute to help myself.
The thing
Felt like
is
it anyway.
that I'm just being mentioned that we meet people during this time on Earth. Okay, now it's taking the story a little bit further. Many people die before we do. These are the spirits of the dead. Now, if those people have a living connection with you, all right, in other words, they are connected to you karmically, those souls that are between death and rebirth, it oftentimes happens that they intervene in our lives in order to save us from catastrophe. Guy says it just happens all the time. He said of all the possibilities that are there, which are endless. There are endless possibilities from the moment we get up till the time we go to sleep. The one that actually happens is only one of infinite possibilities. And then he gives an example. Say, for instance, you are in the habit of getting up at 8 o'clock, or rather not getting up, but leaving your house at 8 o'clock to walk to work. And on this particular occasion, you happen to leave 3 minutes later than you normally do.
Uh-huh.
And then when you get to a certain spot on the path between you and your workplace, you notice that there's a bridge that you walk under, and you notice that if you'd been there at the time you normally there, you would have been crushed because it's collapsed onto the ground. And you would have been underneath it and you would have been killed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the general response of people that is, oh well, oh yeah, sure, they don't really give it much
Luck.
mind.
Lucky is luck.
It's just luck, oh yeah, it's nothing really that serious, blah, blah, blah. But if you happen to do what you did, which is recognize that a spirit of the dead, somebody you know, who's passed through the gate of death, tapped you on the shoulder, and as a result you avoided having the accident. That happens all the time. We just have to become more sensitive to it.
So, Cora, is that the same as guardian angels?
No, no. Guardian angels have to do with guiding us to, so that we actually do fulfill our karma, which is a different thing. They guide us from within, we're always having, if we're paying attention, we're having inner dialogues all the time. I mean, everybody has an inner dialogue, right? When you're talking with quote unquote yourself, that's having an inner dialogue. And sometimes they're not that important, and sometimes they are. But your guardian spirit, your guardian angel, is supposed to accompany you throughout your entire life in order to make sure that you fulfill your destiny and we pay our karmic obligations.
And you only have one.
Right. But there is a problem there. There's always problems, there's always screw-ups. And one of them is that when we see sunspots appearing on the sun, that indicates that angels have gone over to the Ahrimanic forces. So if your angel happens to have done that, then you have an angel that may not have your best interest at heart, the guardian angel. And the other consideration is that we have a phrase that people use a lot, which we should refrain from doing, which is, and I'm going to say quote unquote, oh my God!
OMG?
Don't say that.
No?
No, because you're not referring to God. What did Einstein talks about this? You're referring to your guardian angel. And your guardian angel is very uncomfortable being called God. And it leaves. And what slips in is a Luciferic angel in its place. So then you become subjected to the Luciferic temptations as a result. See, there are many complications in life.
Yeah.
So, now the thing is to go through the Mercury sphere, the one thing we need to develop here on Earth during our time that are alive in the body is moral character, ethical standards. If we do not develop ethical way of life, moral standards in our dealings with each other, then we condemn ourselves to living the life of a hermit during our time in the Mars sphere, and we, the hierarchies, the spiritual beings that belong to the hierarchies cannot give us anything. Now when I'm talking about being a hermit, see, once we've left our body behind, the intensity of feeling that we experience is immeasurably more intense than we can ever possibly imagine. So when you feel lonely, it's a really grim state of affairs. Number one. And number one, you can't communicate with anybody. So even though you're in the, shall we say, the vicinity, the presence of a dear friend that you knew when you were in life between birth and death, you can't communicate with them. So this is a very sad situation. So that's why we need to develop moral, ethical qualities to the hilt while we're here between birth and death. That's the Mercury sphere. Then we go through the Venus sphere. And there, what's required of us in this life is to develop religious sensibilities. You know, with a feeling that there's something greater than us, that it's a work in the scheme of things. You know, higher beings, all the way up to the God, the Mother, Father, Created Spirit. We need to develop that. And this is where the religious life comes in. Today I wouldn't pay, I don't have, personally, what do I say about the religions today? They're decadent. That's what I think. They become decadent, they become degenerate. But at one time, all of them, whether you're talking about Buddhism, Taoism, Sufism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, there were sources of great, shall we say, strength to the people that went to those places of worship. And they weren't phony the way they have become over the years, you know, because everything's kind of become decadent.
And
that time.
commercialized.
Right.
And the egos.
And hugely egotistical, very selfish, very, you know, truly religious people would have no trouble embracing anybody else from another religious persuasion. You simply would not, if you were truly religious. But when you start saying, disparaging other religious sensibilities like Buddhism or Judaism or Muslim, you're not being religious at all. Not even in the slightest sense of the word. Now, in the Venus sphere, what we do is we can only communicate with those souls who have belonged to the same, shall we say, faith as we had when we were here on earth. So they're great religious communities up there, comprising Buddhists and Taoists and Hindus and whatnot. And we are convivial social beings with the ones that we belong to. So if you're Christian, you're in the Christian community, so forth and so on. But again, if you don't develop a religious sensibility, you're cut off and we cannot communicate with anybody. Now,
Cora, religious or spiritual?
religious. This is religious.
Religious on your own, not with the modern organized religions.
No, because we all belong to a stream, right? I mean, we all belong to a religious stream. We all do. To one, we may have forgotten it because of the current place we are in the world today. You know, where people are atheists and agnostics, and they're thoroughly indifferent to the whole idea of religion. Period. You know, but nevertheless, we do belong to a stream. The thing about the term religious is essentially what it means is we understand as human beings that we are bound up with the gods and spirits, and we therefore seek to understand their law, L-O-R-E, so that we can literally, the word religiare means to pick or choose the right thing. So if we're truly religious, we pick or choose to do the right thing for the right reasons at the right time. Because we know we're bound up with the gods and spirits, and we seek to understand their wisdom and their law, and live by it. That's really what the term actually means. So religion is kind of like a degenerate form of religious sensibility. Because what's happened in religions is everything's become codified and made into creeds, and you have to conform to whatever the codification is that has been designed for you by somebody other than your relationship with the gods and spirits. In other words, it's come to you from the priests or the hierarchy of the church to make you conform to what they think you should be, so you can be a pliant, very, servile member of the community. And make sure you bring your money every Sunday. So, now in the sun sphere, this gets really, where it gets very, now before we get to talk about the sun sphere, essentially what's happening is during this whole time between the ending of Kamaloka, the first phase through Mercury, Venus to Sun, that is known as soul land, or the technical term is lower Devachan. And this is where our astral body is getting, if we've done what I've suggested that we need to do in order to participate as social beings in those spheres, we get a strengthening of our astral body. Now when we get to the sun sphere, the chief quality that we need to develop on Earth, and it can only be done on Earth, is we need to develop a personal relationship with Christ, and we need to develop an understanding of the mystery of the crucifixion, otherwise known as the mystery of Golgotha. If we do not that, we have no chance of encountering Christ anyplace else. We can only do it here. Because Christ was a sun being at one point. And he left the sun and came to the earth in order to incarnate in the body of Jesus of Nazareth. And there, as a sun being, he united himself with the earth at the time of the crucifixion. And since then, he's been working from within the earth sphere. The Christ impulse, the Christ being, has been working from within the earth. And not on the sun.